Hi, my name is Dori Drachman. I am the co-chair of the Monadnock Sustainability Hub, and I'm also a member of Peterborough's Community Power Task Force. And I'm going to be presenting a slideshow on the basics of community power. What is community power? In its most basic form, community power is a new New Hampshire program that allows local governments to buy electricity for all of their residents and businesses from electrical suppliers at wholesale rates. In other words, it is a bulk purchasing program for electricity. With community power, there are some changes to both your electricity supply and to your bill. With community power, the town can decide where they want to buy their electricity and what sources they want to buy electricity from. So for Peterborough, we can choose to buy our electricity from renewable sources in support of our new goal of transitioning to 100% renewable electricity by 2030. In addition, on the retail end, the bill allows for some innovative value-added services. And those are things like a reserve fund for perhaps building local renewables, for energy efficiency and grid modernization. What doesn't change is the part in the middle here, which is that the utilities will still own and maintain the poles and wires. So when there is a storm and we are without electricity, it is still Eversource that will come and repair those electricity lines. Why would we want to choose community power? Well, there are several reasons. One is that we get to have local control on our electricity supply. We get to decide what kind of electricity we want to get and where to get it from based on our own priorities and values. So as I was saying earlier, we can increase our percentage of renewable energy. We also will likely be able to get at least competitive prices, if not lower prices, for our electricity. And as I alluded to, and will be detailing in the next slide, we will be able to get some added services that we don't get with the utility default rate. An example of a value-added service is a reserve fund to finance projects that we would consider to be priorities. And some of those projects might be investment in local renewables, energy efficiency for low-income homes, or batteries to make the community more resilient in the face of frequenting storms and other extreme weather events. How do we initiate a community power program? Well, the first step is that our select board appoints a community power committee, which they have already done. The community power committee will develop a plan that then will go to town meeting for approval. After it gets approved at town meeting, residents and businesses who are currently on the default utility plan, the plan where you are just signing up with Eversource, and you will be then notified that we are now part of Peterborough Community Power, and you will be given the opportunity to opt out of the program even before it begins. And you also get the opportunity to opt out at any point after it begins. If you don't opt out, you do not have to do anything. You will get the new rate and the new energy package automatically on your bill. So some of the key steps to going from forming a committee to actually launching a program are to first research the providers that we can be partnering with. We then will request load data, meaning the amount of electricity that the entire town uses, and we request that from Eversource. We will then, with the help of the service provider that we initially choose, we will then write a plan and then educate the community and get feedback on that plan in order to then set us up for approval at town meeting. After it gets approved at town meeting, that is when we actually make a firm selection of the service provider. We will be working with one until then, but it is not binding until we actually sign that contract. Then after we sign the contract, that is when we will send out the notification to all our residents. And finally, we will then launch the program. So highlights of the plan are these 3 points. These are some of the most important parts of the plan that will be customized for our town. The first is the organizational structure of the program. And most plans are structured with tiered levels. So there will be one tier that will be the default, the one that you would automatically get enrolled in. And that is one where you would be paying at least you'd be paying the price of the default rate or lower, but have an increased percentage of renewables in that mix. And that could be anywhere from a 5% increase to maybe a 10 or 15% increase. You then have the ability to opt up, and it might be opting up to 50% renewables or even 100% renewables. For those, at least at the beginning, those would likely be somewhat higher priced. And so those are things that are optional. You also have the possibility of opting down, which would give you the same percentage of renewables as is required by law to be in the utility default rate, but it would be likely a lower price than that same mix with Eversource. Another piece of the plan is to establish the rules around what are called net metering and group net metering processes. Net metering is what happens when you have a solar array on your home and you produce more electricity than you use. You then have the opportunity to sell it back to the grid. And right now, Eversource controls how you get to sell that and the price that you get paid when you sell it to the grid. In community power, the community power program is allowed to set those prices. So it would not be the same necessarily as what you would be getting with Eversource. It is possible that it could be a higher price than they offer. Finally, the community power plan must explain how the electric assistance program will work for the participants. It is required that they allow that. It is in the statute, and it just is an explanation of how that will work. So in order to implement a community power plan, we work with partners with expertise in energy procurement. And in the state of New Hampshire, we've got a couple of commercial brokers who do that work. There's also a new government nonprofit agency, the Community Power Coalition of New Hampshire. They all are in the business of helping towns with their community power plans. And a town can decide who they want to work with either before or after town approval. Any questions about community power, please contact the Community Power Task Force Chair, who is Joel Huberman, and his email address is on this slide. Thank you very much.